Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Vaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamah Devem Saraswatim Vyasam Tadodayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatya Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, we do verses 1 to 23. So, yeah, these set of verses, the chapter's name is Lord's Pastimes out of Vrindavan. So, yeah, as we recalled yesterday, Buddha was speaking to Vidura. So, it's not talking about these pastimes now. So, yeah. It's all these various pastimes are mentioned very brief actually, and there's a lot to it. We'll see. We'll touch some pastimes and then chant the verse 22. All right, so you're gonna start to verse 1.
Sri Uddhava said, "Thereafter, Lord Krishna went to Mathura city with Sri Baladev, and to please their parents, they dragged Kamsa, the leader of public enemies, down from his throne and killed him, pulling him along the ground with great strength.
The Lord learned all the Vedas with their different branches simply by hearing them once from his teacher, Sandipani Muni, whom he rewarded by bringing back his dead son from the region of Yamaloka.
Attracted by the beauty and fortune of Rukmini, the daughter of King Bhishmaka, many great princes and kings assembled to marry her. But Lord Krishna, stepping over the other hopeful candidates, carried her away as his own share, as Garuda carried away nectar.
By subduing 7 bulls, whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hand of Princess Nagnikiti in the open competition to select her bridegroom. Although the Lord was victorious, his competitors asked the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight. Well equipped with weapons, the Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he himself was not hurt.
Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parijata tree from heaven, just as an ordinary husband would do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wives, henpecked as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him.
You heard that phrase, henpecked husband? It's funny because Indra was like that, but, in the description, the Krishna book and other places, sometimes it's described how Krishna was also a henpecked husband. So he also acted like a regular husband, please his wife, especially Satyabhama. Satyabhama was a demonic wife. So Satyabhama was an incarnation of Radharani, and Rukmini was an incarnation of Chandravali, the other group. Chandravali, then their group are like the nice group. They're like the docile gopis. They're like yes, Krishna, whatever. And so from her came Rukmini. Rukmini was like that also. One time Krishna was telling Rukmini that, you should have just, it's described how Krishna fought the other kings, and Rukmini married her. And so he was saying, you should have just married the think it was Shishupal actually, who her brother had arranged for her to marry Shishupal. Krishna was joking. He said, "Oh, you should have just married him. Why did you marry me? I have no caste. I'm not really Kshatriya, I'm not really king." And then Rukmini was actually fanning him. And as he was speaking, she just fainted actually. She just fainted, and then Krishna, I think at that time, yeah, Krishna reveals two more arms came out, and he, I think it was that one, or maybe not that one. It's Krishna. She started crying also, and then yeah, Krishna just stopped her from just falling flat. But yeah, so those are Krishna's pastimes. So sometimes yeah, Krishna's activities might look like some ordinary, and that's why in in the Kauravas assembly, so the Kauravas they didn't really see Krishna as a supreme personality of God. They just saw him as this politician actually, who just somehow has a superpower by killing his uncle. And yeah, it's funny how you can look at Krishna as just an ordinary king, or not even a king, just an ordinary person actually, for a non-devotee, for from a materialistic point of view, you can write a historical life of Krishna. You're like, yeah, this guy who just was herded cows, and then he killed his uncle, took over the kingdom, and then yeah, and then was doing all this politics, and he defeated the Kauravas, and by trickery he killed all. He had the Pandu a devotee of Krishna to see that Krishna is not that kind. He's actually not just an ordinary person. All right, let's go to the next verse. Verse next. Verse 6.
Narakasura, the son of Dharatri, the earth, tried to grasp the whole sky, and for this he was killed by the Lord in a fight. His mother then prayed to the Lord. This led to the return of the kingdom, the son of Narakasura, and as the Lord entered the house of the demon.
There in the house of the demon, all the princes kidnapped by Narakasura at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distressed. They looked upon him with eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives.
Pieces were lodged in different apartments, and the Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions, exactly matching each and every princess. He accepted their hands in perfect rituals by his internal potence.
Just to expand himself according to his transcendental features, the Lord begot in each and every one of them 10 offspring with exactly his own qualities.
Kalyavana, the king of Malta, and Salva attacked the city of Mathura, but when the city was encircled by their shoulders, the Lord refrained from killing them personally, just to show the power of his own men.
Yeah, in this case, when he came, Kalyavana and they attacked. They were still in Mathura, right? So Jarasandha attacked Mathura, and he kept attacking it. So Jarasandha was Kamsa's father-in-law, and he was really upset that he killed his dear son-in-law, and made his daughter widow, and so he kept attacking and kept failing every time. The description in 10th canto is that yeah, Krishna would just go and they would just obliterate their army, and it would just be like rivers of blood, and the chopped hands and the legs were like little islands on the. So it's those other descriptions. It's a lot of fun, and and he kept defeating, and finally when he came with Kalyavana, and then yeah, Krishna transported the whole kingdom to Dwarka, and then yeah, Krishna started running away actually from Kalyavana, just pretending to be like an ordinary warrior who was too scared to fight the mighty Kalyavana, and then that's why. Anyone know what name Krishna got because of that pastime? Is it Ranchor? Yeah, Ranchor Krishna. Run means the battlefield, and Chor means to leave. So he just ran away from the battlefield. Ranchor Krishna, and so he got that name. And then, anyone know what happened next? Where did Krishna lead Kalyavana to? He led him to a cave, and then what happened next? You know the pastime. What you counted? Yeah, he was this this king who had fought for the demigods was taking a little nap, and then then Krishna led Kalyavana in the cave. Kalyavana sees this Muchukunda sleeping in there, and he thinks, "What is this lousy Krishna?" First he ran away. Now he's taking a nap instead of fighting with me. So I don't know if he kicked them or he kicked them, right? So he just just like kicked them wherever he kicked them. So I don't remember where he kicked them. They kicked him somewhere. So then King Muchukunda woke up. So he had this one boon. So he had asked the demigods that I really want to take a really long nap after helping you guys with your wars. And he said that also one more boon that anyone who wakes me up, I'm gonna look at them and they're gonna burn to ashes. So there's one boon. It's like, don't wake me up. It's like when the ashram leader goes up to wake you up and you're like, what? Burn them with your burn them into ashes. Like, I'm taking that. So it's like that. So Mujikanda woke up and then Mujikanda, right? Yeah, he woke up and then Kalyana just burst into flames basically. And then Krishna came, showed Mujikunda his form. And then Mujikunda saw Krishna and he was like, oh, he was like, oh, this is the Supreme Personality God. And they had a nice conversation. And actually, it's amazing in that pastime. Mujikunda was a king, so he's very cultured. He introduced himself first. He said, "My name is Mujikunda, such and such a king. I help with demigods." And he asked, "Who are you?" And then Krishna said, "I'm the Supreme Personality God."
Yes, what's your occupation?
Oh, what's your occupation? Yeah, it's like, I do this. What do you do? It's funny. So yeah, all right, go ahead, next verse.
Of kings like Sambara, Durvida, Mana, Mura, Balvala, and many other demons such as Dantavakra, some he killed himself and some he caused to be killed by others, Shri Baladev, etc.
Next verse.
Then, O Vidura, the Lord caused all the kings, both the enemies and those on the side of your fighting nephews, to be killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. All those kings were so great and strong that the earth seemed to shake as they traversed the war field.
Duryodhana was bereft of his fortune and duration of life because of the intricacy of ill advice given by Karna, Dushashana, and Shubala. When he lay on the ground with his followers, his thighs broken, although he was powerful, the Lord was not happy to see the scene.
Yeah, most of these kings, even Kamsa, there were times when Kamsa actually taught properly because there was a point when he felt bad for Devaki and Vasudeva, and he thought, they're in prison. I should just get them out. After all, she's my sister. And but then the ministers kind of provoke them, like, no, don't get them out. So oftentimes you see that the spirit soul thinks wisely, but they had bad association, that not able to come out of it. It's the same case of Duryodhana as well. Is provoked often by Karna, Dushashana, and Sabala. Next verse.
After the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 Akshuhinis, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna, and Bhima. But what is this? There is still great strength of the Yadu dynasty, born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden.
So this was a nice purpose. And Prabhupada talks about burden, he talks about how the earth can never really be overburdened by population. And he says one is the burden of the beast and the burden of love. So he said that these demoniac forces, they were like the burden of the beast, it's like, or it's like, oh yeah, these people with armies, I gotta bear their burden. But then there is the Yadu dynasty or the devotees. And Prabhupada said that, if they're devotees, then there's no burden. It's just a burden of love. And so And same thing Prabhupada said, but deity worship as well, like he said that it shouldn't be seen as a burden. It's like a burden of love, so it's not really the same thing. And same principle applies for so many things, so many activities, devotional service as well. That yeah, sure, one can see it as burden, but it's actually a burden of love. It's that burden of love actually reduces our material burden. And say in this purport Prabhupada talks about how yeah, if it's devotees, then there is no burden actually. Things actually flow nicely. And so when Krishna is saying that there are burdens, he's not comparing them necessarily to the armies of the other side. He's just saying that yeah, it's a burden. It's a burden flow, but still a little bit of burden. And also, and he was planning for them to now leave planet Earth. So that's why he speaks this verse. That's why he speaks like this. Oh yeah, he gives actually in the Prabhupada says the burden of the child on the lap of the mother and the burden of wealth on the businessman, although actually burdens from the viewpoint of heaviness, are sources of pleasure. And in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. So yeah, there's so many things in our lives that might seem like burdens, but when you actually take care of that, especially the prime example is of a mother. The child is such a burden. When the child is born, just can't do anything. It's just stupid. You know, can take can very easily get itself killed, and little kids just run everywhere. And peek through the roof or whatever. My father actually, when he was a child, he jumped from the roof and he landed on electric wires and then he fell down. He was electrocuted and he fell down. Somehow he survived actually. As other time, I don't know what my father was doing, but other time he was a kid, and my great grandmother, she had this oil for massage, so he just came and he drank it, and it was poisonous, for drinking. It's not, should not. It said don't drink. But he drank it, and then my grandmother had to take him to the hospital. Still tells a story like, yeah, I swam across the river to go to the doctor at midnight to save my son. So like yeah, kids, they can die so easily, such a burden. So it's always like the parents are always on edge. Like yeah, something my kid might do something, but it's a burden of love still. And then you get to tell stories to them for the rest of their lives and guilt trip them. But yeah, but yeah, it's like that. And so same thing. There's so many things in our lives that might be hard to do, but they're a source of pleasure, actually. And that's how things are. If you do things in the material realm, that yeah, there will be a burden, and there's not really much pleasure that you get out of it. You might get something out of it, but it's not much pleasure. But in the realm of devotional service, there might be things that are burdensome, but when you do those activities, you get actually an internal reward from Krishna. Any thoughts or comments about it?
Just thinking that the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple is also sometimes described like that. Disciple is like a child sitting on the lap of the spiritual master, and it just passes urine and stool right there on the lap. So in a similar way, we don't really always treat our spiritual masters properly, but they still keep doing themselves without any reserve.
You mentioned two types of burdens, a love burden and the what is love burden?
What is the burden of love?
Yeah.
It's that that idea, especially the child is the best example. It's like a burden of love. It's still a burden, but gives a lot of pleasure. The burden of the beast is just like hard work, not much pleasure out of it. So,
Thank you.
so like that too, there's all kinds of burdens one might have. Like setting up the camera. It's burden of love. All right, next verse. I think it's verse 15. I know it's next. Go ahead.
When they quarrel among themselves, influenced by intoxication, their eyes red like copper because of drinking madhu. Then only will they disappear. Otherwise, it will not be possible. On my disappearance, this incident will take
Next one.
Sri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthir in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of duty. The embryo of Kuru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara. His wife was burnt by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord.
Supreme Lord induced the son of Dharma to perform 3 horse sacrifices, and Maharaj Yudhishthir, constantly following Krishna, the personality Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by his younger brothers.
Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy.
He was there in his transcendental body, the residence of the goddess of fortune, with his usual gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character.
God enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in other worlds, higher planets, specifically in the association of the other dynasty. In leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with her.
Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested.
No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service.
Let's do the verse. Sounds good. 22. Daivadhineshu kameshu Daivadhina swayam puman Do Vishrambeta Yogena Yogeshwaram Manuvrata Devadineshu Kameshu Devadina Swayam Puman Go Vishrambeta Yogena Yogeshwaram Manuvrata Devadineshu Kameshu Devadina Swayam Puman Go Vishrambeta Yogena Manuvrata.
Devadineshu kameshu
Devadineshu Kameshu
swayam
Devadina Swayam Puman Go Vishrambeta Yogena
Yogeshwaram Manovrataha
Yogeshwara Manuvrata Devadineshu Kameshu Devadina Swayam Puman Go Vishrambeta Yogena Yogeshwara Manuvrata Devadineshu Kameshu Devadina Swayam Puman Go Vishrambeta Yogena Yogeshwara Manuvrata. Right, let's do it together. Daiva, supernatural. Adineshu, Kameshu, incense and jar. Deva, Adina, controlled by supernatural. Swayam, himself. Human, living entity. Ka, whoever. Shambheta, faith. Yogena, by devotion service. Yogeshwaram, the Supreme Lord. Anuvrata, 7. Translation together. Supernatural force. And thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Right? That's really perfect. Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Bhakti or Devi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. For example, with any sense, he can perform the activities of other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and perform the act of the sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life, but simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktiya mam abhijanati yavan yaskasmi tatmata. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the
So yeah, this verse specifically talks about how one can only know Krishna by rendering devotional service. And yeah, the process of bhakti yoga, the process of Krishna consciousness is not a process of intellect. There's definitely a lot of knowledge involved. There's definitely a lot of jnana involved, but it's not actually a process of intellect. It serves its purpose, but actually, what's that verse from the first canto? Yeah, it's from jnana and something else comes from bhakti. What's that verse? Do you remember? Yeah, yeah. There's two things that come out of it, right? What's jnana vairagya, renunciation. Thanks. And so yeah, from bhakti actually, knowledge and renunciation come, and not the other way around. It's not that one has to be super austere and renounce and know everything, every verses in the Gita, and what every Sanskrit word means, and be a Sanskrit expert, and then you will know Krishna. Actually, no, it's the other way around. It's actually when one really does the process of devotional service with the intention of pleasing Krishna, and then from that, knowledge and renunciation just naturally appears out of that. Because when one really tries to please Krishna, then one naturally, just becomes a little more detached or becomes more renounced. It's just more focused on Krishna. And so it's just a little bit more, renunciation just is the byproduct. And jnana, because one wants to know more about Krishna, one actually starts religion hearing about Krishna. The knowledge also comes just as a byproduct. And that's the main thing actually that one has to really grasp on: how to serve Krishna, how to please Krishna, how to have that, cultivate that mood actually, that service attitude for pleasing Krishna and the devotees. And then from that, actually, Krishna is pleased, and then Krishna in the heart reveals himself. Because one can't just know Krishna simply by knowledge. It's just not an academic pursuit. And sometimes you see people who are in the academic world, and they might know a lot. They might have even studied a lot of the books written by our previous teachers, but they do not know. They actually don't know. They just have book knowledge basically. There's no knowledge in the heart. And on this pious Saint Valentine's Day, that's the whole process. It's the yoga of love actually. The whole process is of showing love to Krishna, and Krishna reveals himself. It's like any relationship when you serve the other person, love means service, right? So when you serve the other person, then naturally, naturally there is some intimacy. You become close, right? And when you do activities together, approach, right? It's the same thing with Krishna as well. When we serve him, when we spend more time with him, when we're just there, doing japa in the morning, when we do kirtan for Krishna, or whatever else, or when we're, doing our cherished fourth hour service, and Krishna Krishna sees us. Krishna sees us from the altar. When you clean the temple room, Krishna really sees that, and Krishna really reciprocates. And I remember it was actually several years ago. It was Nityananda's appearance day, and I was in the kitchen. It was in Maryland. I was in the kitchen in temple, and I was cutting cauliflower, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should be out there distributing books for Lord Nityananda. Be a preacher and preach the good word of the good Lord. And because Lord Nityananda is a priest, right? And then I thought, well, but I'm here and I'm cutting these cauliflowers, and so I thought, let me just actually do it very intentionally for Lord Nityananda. After all, the feast is for him, and so I started cutting the cauliflowers with that intention. And I just remember feeling like, wow, this is the best cauliflower cut-up session I've ever had in my life. But it's just that mood, that one can cultivate. That this is for Krishna. And it's counterintuitive, isn't it? When you want something in life, you want to think, I need to get it, and I gotta have my SMART goals lined up to get whatever they stand for, the SMART goals, specific, whatever, all that stuff. And like I gotta have all that lined up, and I'm gonna be so productive and efficient, and I'm gonna get this goal of mine, and just so ultra focused. And if anything else takes my energy away from it, so I'm just gonna put it aside and just it's all about I, me, and mine. And so that's how people achieve things in life. They're super focused and on what I need to do to get this thing for me. And in Krishna consciousness, it's like it's upside down. One is super focused for what can I do for Krishna, and how can I please Krishna. And it's in a sense that in a sense we are not in the center, but we are, because Krishna puts us in his center. We put Krishna in our center, and then Krishna is like, okay, since this devotee is putting me in the center, I'm gonna be focused on this person. And Krishna takes time from his daily activities in Vrindavan, and he looks at Dr. Nate, and he's like, look, Nate's doing all the TV screen stuff so good now, and so and so forth. Yeah, so Krishna actually focuses on the devotee, and that's why he's the Supreme Personality Godhead, because we can't do that. We can't focus on so many people, but Krishna can. He's the Supreme Personality Godhead, and so Krishna actually he gives us something that we can't give ourselves, and nobody else really can. He gives us that eternal original relationship that we have with him. He reveals that, and that's something, in a sense, we can't really do that for ourselves. And we can pray to Krishna, we can do devotional service, but actually it's Krishna who reveals that in our hearts and reestablishes that. And that is a wealth that is just comparable to anything one can give, and anything one can get in this world, and in this world, people work for minimum wage or maximum wage, whatever it is. In this world, one can make so much money. But actually, the ultimate wealth is when one realizes what the relationship is with Krishna, and they're able to apply that and lovingly do service to Krishna. There's not, can you imagine going to a mother and saying, we'll pay you X amount of money? Does that compare to loving your child? It's just there's no amount of money that will compare to that satisfaction or the love that a parent, especially a mother, feels for her child, right? So Prabhupada has said that the love of a mother to their child is the closest thing to love of God. And so same thing here. It's like there's nothing really that can give as much satisfaction to our hearts than loving devotional service to Krishna. That is the real wealth, actually. And so, whatever service we do, if we do it with that mood, this is for Krishna. That this is a burden of love. It's a burden, but it's a burden for love, and it's pleasing, And the burdens of the material world only increase our burdens further, and then the burdens of service to Krishna relieve us from that burden. And I was thinking about that time last week when a bunch of devotees, Bruce and Stephen and others, had to carry case by case of beans into the containers. And I was thinking, yeah, it's true. It's like they're filling up Lord Chaitanya's warehouse, and he will fill up their heart with cases of love for Krishna. So it's true actually when we do devotional service for Krishna with that with love, with dedication, and just expect even more service from their ashram leader. Uh, and that's actually Krishna said that to the gopis. He said, "What can I give you? I can't give you anything except for please have more love for me. Basically, you already there's nothing I can give you actually." So it's the same principle that actually Krishna can only give us more ways for us to become more and more attached to Him, and that's the ultimate wealth there is in this material and spiritual world. And yes, so the verse talks about how because of the material energy, because of Prakriti, one gets covered, right? And they're not able to see Krishna. And so when one does service for Krishna, there is actually no difference in the material and the spiritual energy. It's actually the one and same. This material world, it actually becomes the spiritual world. In the third canto, later in the third canto, is described, the Vaikuntha is described, how this, it's like a whole description. And one section it talks about the Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She's doing her 4th hour service. She's uh she's cleaning the hallways, and the question arises like, why is she cleaning? It's a Vaikuntha. There's no dust there. It's not like Gainesville. There's dust everywhere. There's leaves fall every day. You clean it, there's leaves again on the floor, and it's not like that. So the question arises, well, why is she doing it? And the answer is that, well, she wants to do a devotional service. So even when it's not unclean or there's no dust, she's still cleaning it. So that's just, and because she feels that reward, of devotional service. So it's the same thing when we have that mood, then this material world actually transforms into the spiritual world. It's just that little bit of shift in consciousness. And when one has that mood of like, what can I get out of it? This one has that mood, then it doesn't quite click. It doesn't quite click. So when one has the mood of giving and service, then Krishna is in the heart actually. Um, yeah, establishes that relationship, and there's nothing better. Has anyone had any experience or would like to share any experiences when they're doing any kind of service, devotional service, and they've really felt reciprocation from Krishna, be it internally or externally? Maybe somebody came with a plate of prasadam, you're like, yes, Krishna is reciprocated. And anyone have any experiences like that would like to share? Thanks, Stephen.
I guess recently with the Tuesday program service, one thing that we talked about in our meeting with Gopi and Talasya was engaging with guests more and making it more of a priority to try to build relationships with people that came to the programs. And last night, I guess I kind of set like, actually no, I didn't really set an intention. I was just going to get prasadam and see like what was going on after the program. And then I saw a nice group of like a couple young men, and I just sat down with them and I talked with them. And I didn't like preach like the philosophy too heavy. They asked me questions about, my life and what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I'm living here, yada yada. And yeah, it was just really sweet. And without even having to ask them, they were like, oh, do you want to come back on Friday? Or like, we should come back. Like, and it was just so sweet. Like, I was just like, wow. I mean, just sitting here and talking to these people, being their friend. They're actually cool. They're actually cool people, Sean and Jared. So I hope they come back. I like them. But yeah, I just felt like very like satisfied. And similarly, like afterwards, we were doing some cleaning. Jonathan, Nate, and I and other devotees, Carmen and Kiara, I think, and probably others. And it was just really sweet. And I was like, man, I don't even care if I'm staying up a little late because it's just so nice to be here with the devotees doing this right now.
The question was, anyone like to share any experiences where, yeah, when you perform devotional service and you felt Krishna's notification, internally or externally? Go.
Yeah, I have to be honest that I experience it quite often,
So,
especially with the service of book distribution. If you really try and put an effort in with that, then it's pretty much guaranteed that the next time you perform some sort of sadhana like japa, there's going to be a lot of precipitation. And what I've experienced countless times is just I don't really know how to exactly describe it, but it's like transcendental emotions, I guess. And then you sit there and you're wondering like, what is happening? What are all these things that I'm feeling? You know, a mixture of happiness and almost like this overwhelming gratitude and all these different things. So many very transcendental emotions, and then you realize the only possibility here is that experiencing these things because Krishna is feeling all those things as well. Krishna is feeling very, very nice.
Um, so like whenever I'm talking to just like random people, sometimes they'll ask about me what I'm doing here, and like they'll ask me why I like being here and what I like about it. I'll tell them about the philosophy, what I like about the philosophy, and I feel so happy.
Yeah, I think either last year or the year before that, I went to Ecuador for my birthday for Rath Yatra, and man, it was very difficult. It was very austere. It was nonstop service. It was like way different than it is in Krishna House, Gainesville. So yeah, I was so bummed and I was sick and oh man, I was so stressed out. But still went on with the service, and yeah, then later on that night, um, when I finally had Wi-Fi, I got all the messages from all the devotees from the community chat, and like I just felt relieved of everything that I had felt for like the whole time I was there. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like Krishna, relieves the fire of material existence in our heart, and that just can't be done by anything else but devotional service.
Thinking of a few instances, but one that was pretty pertinent. And I was excited, for the morning program. So I felt like really protected. The hobo could have done worse or hit me on a different wall or, but anyways, I felt really protected by the holy name. And then when I came here, the morning program, this really uplifted me and changed my consciousness. And yeah,
Yeah.
I felt Krishna's like shelter and like mercy. Like
Yeah.
this could have been worse.
All right. What else? What else I can share? Nita? And on the hobo.
First, I learned how to do like spiritual activities like Krishna consciousness as a child, but I always felt like because I didn't have any friends, like body friends, I wasn't getting the full experience, and it was just something that my parents did. The first time I came here, I think there was an inner like somehow a longing that I wish I had like body friends I could share this with, because whenever I would share this with my like other friends in college, we just like start getting into like an argument or debate. It was never like loving exchanges like regarding educational service. So when I came here for like a semester and then I had to go back and then I was really longing to come back here. During that year, I was just really praying that I hope I can get like some deep friendships in Krishna consciousness, which is what I think will change my whole like outlook on like Krishna consciousness. And when I came back, I talked to a few devotees and expressed that desire to them, and they just told me like pray about this to Krishna, and I'm sure like he'll understand. Like he'll reciprocate. And like needless to say that the next few years in the ashram were like the best years like of my adult life, and I got so many wonderful friendships, and just makes me feel like even though I had many friendships back home in India, but still like these last few years of friendships that I had here was like much more deeper, much more sweeter, and that's why Krishna like kept me on the path to come to him by giving me very, very like deep relationships, so that he loves me through his devotees.
Thanks for showing that. Yeah, it's like friendships and relationships that are based on Krishna consciousness is so deep, and especially the time in the ashram. There's the relationships, friendships we make in the ashram, they will last us our lifetime. Unless there's one devotee who just really annoys us. We don't want to see them after it. But other than those people, but yeah, the relationships really pure, and we just look back and we think, oh yeah, it was so much fun to be the ashram and with some.
Done the class or thought after the class in general. So this is not about your last question about reciprocation, but just in general. Your class really made me meditate upon how important it is to be aware of and to kind of monitor our mood while we're doing service. Because you're saying on the Nityananda Trayadasi you were cutting cauliflower, and you really had the right mood, which transformed the whole experience. So I think sometimes we underestimate how important it is to just have the right mood while we're doing our service. Because any service you do, we know it gives you benefit, but you can make a lot more advancement. You can get so much more benefit if we could just cultivate a mood of gratitude and sincerity with whatever service we're doing. So I was just thinking about that during class.
Sure. Thanks. And do you guys want to hear about a funny dream I had last night? It's kind of connected with the class. It's very intriguing. It's very weird, actually. So, in the dream, Ravana actually captured me. He actually grabbed me. I saw flying, and I saw myself flying over these South Indian cities, which is funny because he was in the south, Sri Lanka. Was carrying me, and then we finally went down somewhere, and then he was forcing me to go get people to him to, I don't know what he was gonna devour them or something, and so like forcing me to get people to them. And I was trying to not do that. And then yeah, in the whole dream I was just had so much anxiety, and then he would grab me up like this and just fly again to different cities. And then he would just like throw me in places where I could, like on top of a tall building where I couldn't get off the building. And there were like snakes there and everything. And I was just praying. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then he finally grabbed me and took me somewhere. And in the dream, I thought, I'm just gonna see this place as Vrindavan. And I just started seeing that place, whatever place it was, as Vrindavan, and started seeing the various holy places in Vrindavan. And then Ravana was gone. That was the end of the dream. But I was reflecting on that, on this point that there might be so many the Ravana of might capture us and try make us do all kinds of stuff, I guess. But if we really change our mentality and start seeing and acting in a way that this place actually, wherever we are, it's actually service we have, and this place is Vrindavan, Krishna is there, and let me work in such a way that Krishna is pleased, then the Ravana of our life will this alone. Yes, that's a dream. When I woke up this morning, I was like, "Oh, it's that. Has to be the most vivid and most weird dream so far." Anyways, so I thought I would share. Was that? I went to it now. All right. Thank you. Gracias, Bhagavatam.
Jai.